Oh, yeah, hello. So here's the thing. I don't believe in boring. I don't believe in doing things that just talk at you and don't think that you're smart human beings who get it. So we have an amazing panel, but more importantly, we want you guys to take away information from this. So I also have a degree in education. So it's also, you're getting a seat and you get to relax, and I'm sure your feet hurt or your phone needs charging, but you'll also take away a lot of information. But let's go ahead and bring our beautiful panel up. Come on up, because I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves and do your elevator speech about why you're amazing. I always go rogue. They prepare things for me, and then I'm like, let's just do this. So let's go ahead and start with Miss Paula. Introduce yourself. Tell them why you're amazing and cool and what you do in life.
Paula Kennedy, CMKBD, and Eclipse certified designer as well. Timeless Kitchen Design in Seattle, Washington. I'm used to this snow, as a lot of you are from the East Coast too, so this is weird here in Las Vegas to have snow. So 20 years in the industry, 20 years within KBA, 20 years KBIS. And it's amazing that we always see everything new. I have the opportunity to teach and mentor and give back to this industry that has given me so much. So.
She's a very cerebral mind, because she's like, I always think there are the creatives, like I'm your typical creative, you can probably guess that, and she brings both sides of the brain. Okay, so next up, Mr. Alex.
Hey, so I'm Alex Capecelatro. I run a company called Josh.AI. It's a voice-controlled artificial intelligence company focused on the smart home. So I'm the token tech guy on the panel. Background, I dropped out of high school to work for the government, worked for NASA for quite a while, did some electric car stuff, and then got into software. Been doing this for about 4 years now. Our company is primarily focused on the luxury smart home, typically projects between 10 and 50,000 square feet. And as we've gotten into this, it initially was very apparent that there's this really weird divide between the AV guys and the networking guys and the designers and the architects. And so we've been on a mission to try to bring all of it together. We believe the best technology is not seen, it's not interrupting the flow of the home, but it should just be really natural. And that's one area where voice and AI really comes in. It should just be a seamless, delightful experience. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, it should not be annoying and high maintenance, because that's the intimidating factor. Okay, Suzanne.
Hi, guys. I am Suzanne Scott. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I am an interior designer focusing on kitchen and bath. Weird. And let's see. I am a past 30 under 30, which is a pretty cool thing that the NKBA does. And I like to have fun and enjoy life in Seattle and design beautiful spaces.
So, okay, so now we want to know who you guys are really quick. So it's kind of annoying to raise your hand, but it's good to know who you're talking to. How many of you are designers? How many are builders? How many are technology? And contractors as well. How many are contractors? How many are real estate? How many are other? I always say other because I don't know what all it is. Awesome. Okay, so then the last thing we're going to ask you to raise your hand on is, and this, own it. What generation are you? And I had to like pull up the generations because now there's like so many. How many are baby boomers? Awesome. How many are Generation X? That is, I had to pull it up. Generation X is 65 to 79. How many are millennials, 80 to 2000? Oh, lucky you. How many are, they call it the new silent generation or Generation Z, 2000 to present? Oh, yay, awesome. Because the whole point of this is we're talking about why some of these applications take place. So universal design versus living in place. What would you guys like to say? Suzanne, what's the difference between universal design and living in place?
So universal design is designing a beautiful space for anyone, regardless of age, size, ability, and the space will function the same for everyone, and it needs to be seamless and easy and intuitive for the person to use, regardless of who they are. And then aging in place, I would say, at least for me, is designing with a specific intent in mind. So, for example, you have a client and their bathroom is no longer safe for them. Maybe they are now in a wheelchair. So approaching that situation, maybe you enlarge the bathroom a bit so that it's wheelchair accessible. For the shower, you rip out the tub that is going to be more cumbersome for them to get in and out of. And then you do a curbless walk-in shower. So there's no door, there's no threshold for them, and it just makes it really easy, usable space. Adding in grab bars for support is also great. And then making sure you're thinking about the plumbing too. So not just a fixed head, but also having a handheld and just, again, making the space really easy and accessible for them to use. And then thinking of the same scenario with universal design, I would approach it a very similar way. So still opening up the bathroom, making it a little bit bigger, more luxurious. Maybe we're doing a more modern contemporary style, so we still do a walk-in curbless shower that's beautiful. We may not add grab bars right away, but we add blocking because we're planning for the future and thinking about the use of the people and also others that come and visit. Maybe they have an elderly parent that comes and visits them often. So
I don't think people think of that enough. Like your visitors in your house. Yeah, you may not be broken, but maybe someone who visits you is. That's probably not a nice way to tell them they're broken.
Whatever. Yeah. Or maybe, God forbid, you break your leg or your son or daughter playing a sport. And so you need somewhere to sit in the shower and your shower head's over there. So you need a hand shower closer to you. So it's really thinking about all of the different scenarios and asking questions. Get to know your client, get in their brain, figure out what's going on.
There's a lot of terms that are thrown around out there. There's universal design, there's ADA, accessibility, adaptability, there's living in place now, aging in place. There's all these things like aging in place we just don't want to say, right? Nobody wants to hear that or talk about that. But how do we be politically correct? And I was just on the NKBA badge program for living in place, and we grappled with this. What terms do we use? We're kind of tired of universal design. It just feels bigger and broader than that. And we keep ending up with living in place, which is for all people, all homes, all abilities, all lifestyles.
And it doesn't sound depressing. Because a lot of times, straight up, this kind of concept was only implemented when you needed it, and all the products looked clunky and sad and like you'd given up on life. And now, companies are getting it. They're understanding that there is a market for it and there is a monetary value to it. So you can get certified living in place through CLIP, or there's still aging in place and all of that. But you guys... And Alex, Paula, go. She's got some knowledge.
Talking about certification, so how many of you either have CAPS or CLIP? How many CAPS or CLIP do we have here? Okay. How many certified kitchen and bath designers do we have here? All right, so these are all wonderful avenues through NKBA, NAHB. There's certified aging in place. There's certified living in place professional. Even with your CKDs or CMKBDs, NKBA teaches those certifications, all of the universal design guidelines as well. So those are all great paths to take.
We just did a panel on it talking about why the consumer cares if you're certified. And if you're not, that's okay too, even if you educate yourself on it. But the reason is because it distinguishes you from everyone else. It shows that you're into continual education, and half the time the consumer doesn't know why that's needed. But you guys, and Alex jump in with the technology aspect of what we can bring, but what value does this add monetarily to homes when you start bringing in these concepts?
Yeah, I'm just going to throw in from a technology perspective, one of the big issues that's happened in the past is we've installed these systems that are very static. They don't evolve, they don't change, yet we live in a world where we change our phone every 12 months. There's a new Apple TV or a Sonos or a Roku, there's stuff coming out. And so on the technology side, we really think about how do you design the technology for an evolving home? How do you design with the idea that something's going to come out in a year that we can't even fathom, but your client is going to want? And so if you think about the home kind of like an iPhone, how is it easy to add and remove apps? How can you plug and play, make things more adjustable? And so we do tend to shy away from installing touchscreens on walls, things that are going to feel dated and be hard to replace. But the more that you can have wireless devices that can easily be swapped out, and also just understanding that the client's needs and desires are going to be radically different in 5 years. Just that's how fast technology is changing. With the aging in place market, it's also such a new concept on the technology side that most of the solutions don't yet exist. There are a lot of folks playing around with how can we use sensors and automation to create an environment where it's safer. How do we create maybe cameras and artificial intelligence that will allow someone to be in their 80s or even 90s in a safe way. And I think the more that you think about the fact that we want a design that's beautiful and seamless and unobtrusive, but also accounts for maybe there's a sensor that's going to have to go in the ceiling that we don't yet know about, but let's just leave a place for that.
But Alex, you talk about like the generations that ask for your technology, because a lot of times I think people are like, if I invest in it, is it going to be different next week and all of that? But what generations are you seeing wanting that kind of technology? Because it's surprising.
Yeah, so it's a good question. The idea of a smart home is changing very quickly. In the past, this was a luxury desire that people opted into or didn't opt into. But at this point, the smart home is really just an extension of your network. You want to have Wi-Fi everywhere in the home. You want to be able to stream music. You want to be able to stream Netflix. And so the smart home really just extends and grows from there. What we're finding is because of that, it's not really a desire for someone that's wanting the latest, greatest, coolest thing, rather than someone that's wanting simplicity. They want ease of use. For example, we just bought a home in Palm Springs. It has no connected lighting.
Lucky you.
It's wonderful. But it has no connected lighting, and it's really painful to realize that there are probably 150 lighting loads that all need to be individually turned on, turned off. We lose sleep over the idea of forgetting about that. Once we upgrade to a connected lighting system, one button will turn everything off. It's easier to manage. If any of the devices go offline or a bulb goes out, we'll get notified.
So for Suzanne and Paula, when you look at that with baby boomers and other people, how do you apply that with universal design and living in place?
Well, one of the things I wanted to say and really highlight, and then I'll tie it back in, was what Alex was talking about, flexibility and adjustability, and being able to make these adjustments as needed. That's great for universal design and technology. We need to have the flexibility to move things around and adjust them as needed.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I think the flexibility and the freedom that you can get with adding in technology, whether it's universal design or aging in place or whatever you're doing, bringing in that technology can be such a positive thing. And I know that depending on people's generation or their comfortable level of comfort with technology, some people are hesitant. And I think that you can alleviate that hesitance by bringing a professional in that lives, sleeps, eats, and breathes technology and can explain everything to the client, talk to them about security and all of those things. And if you want to touch on that a little bit.
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, it's so exciting. They all want to talk.
You bring up a really good point about we assume that different generations don't want to do technology. We assume these things. But really, my grandparents in their 90s were emailing their grandkids. They learned how to communicate with their grandkids. And it was my parents' generation that taught them how to do it. I taught my parents how to text. If they want to communicate with me, they need to text, right? My nieces taught me how to Snapchat.
Uh-huh.
Every generation. Now, my 90-year-old grandfather is probably not doing everything that I'm doing, or my nieces, but they still went beyond their comfort level to learn enough to still be connected and to communicate. So there's a natural progression.
I think that's important what you say, because as builders, designers, everyone, we assume someone may not want to invest their part of their budget in technology to do it, but you can't assume because they're older they won't find that just as cool, and part of it is educating them. So if you guys think about it, the market value that it can add to a home, what would you say about that? In universal design, living in place, the technology aspect?
Yeah, just to jump in, I mean, it's been really interesting seeing how our clients are adopting this technology and really who our clients are. We thought that the people who wanted voice control were going to be on the younger side, folks that were very into technology. They love lots of apps. They love using, drones and phones and all that stuff. And while that is true to a certain extent, our average client is over 65. What we find is it's a lot more difficult to navigate an app, to use a touchscreen, to navigate lots of different controls, as opposed to the simple voice command of turn on. You can teach someone to say, turn on the lights, turn on the TV, turn on some music, turn on the fan. And if it works that well, it's much simpler than having a whole bunch of switches that clutter up the wall, or an app, or a screen.
I don't think I can do an app because I can't control our PowerPoint. But I was like, I can't go back. At some point, we'll
voice.
get those back, right? Voice activation, if you think about it, I'm about to start a client job, and he didn't approach me about technology, but I sent him a message that I was at KBIS, and this is what I'm doing. He's probably of the baby boomer generation, and to him, he was more worried about finishes. But when you start throwing that in there, so if you think about it, universal living and living in place, some of those things are, if you think about it, the archaic concept is always one handrail. Well, when you have two, that's much easier, and aesthetically that can work for the design. What are some other things about those universal living and living in place?
How many of you saw the Delta faucet out there that is voice activated?
If not, go see it.
That was phenomenal. And the voice is, I think, the most natural next progression for us in using technology.
So some of the other things. So I just recently got certified, which is why I kind of feel like it's fresh in my brain. As a design snob, oh yeah, they got my slides up, thank you. But like a zero entry shower is nothing. It looks nice and easy. It all comes down to like the grid, like the kind of the flow of it. So if you go to the CHIS booth, they're doing big panels of glass, but they're showing you how you can etch the glass so you're not going to slip and fall. What are some other products that you guys have seen around here that you feel fit those concepts of living in place and universal design, and what generations might find it interesting?
I'll start. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do just thinking about showers. So plumbing, you want to make sure, like I said earlier, that you have multiple points of use when you're thinking about different people that are going to be using it. The size of your shower, and then...
What size should it be?
It really needs to be like at least 36 inches wide. Anything smaller than that is so tiny. And you're just cramped. I'm not a big person, and code 30 inches wide, that is small. So I would say don't do anything smaller than at least like 36 by 36.
Don't you guys, yep.
I was going to answer that question. It depends on your client.
Yes.
Right?
It totally depends on your client. But, I mean, doesn't everyone like kind of a nice bigger shower, right?
Well, I think now it's more the norm and the practice. So like it used to be always everything ADA, and on job sites, commercial sites especially, people would complain if they had to take the extra effort to do ADA. And I always would stop and tell my contractors and be like, well, wouldn't it be worse to be the one in the wheelchair? Part of it as us in the industry is making sure you put it in a positive light, that you're enhancing how your client lives in that space. So how do you guys bring it up to people? Because it's kind of, sometimes can be awkward, but if you want to be like, well, you might need it, or how do you start talking to them about it?
I just talk to them about it. I mean, think about it. You're designing a bathroom for someone. You're talking about how they use their toilet. You're talking about if they shower together, if they take baths together. It's intimate. It's fine. Just talk about it. And don't make it normal. Just have a regular conversation. Ask them, do you guys, do you do this? Do you shower together? Do you have people that come over to your home? How long are you planning on being in your home? Because that helps with, are we adding backing for grab bars, or are we putting them in now. So just talk to people, you know, and make it easy and natural. And like you were saying, just do it, man.
You know, you brought up another point that we started on earlier that I'll finish up with as far as resale. Are they going to move in 5 years? Now, what we've been finding really fascinating was from the boomer to the millennial and younger generation, well, from the boomers to millennials, so many similarities. And the housing inventory, I think there's going to be a real shortage there because they're all going to the same solutions for different reasons. But in the real estate world now, when you list your home in many different areas, and I don't think it's nationwide yet, but it's starting up in different areas, you can list that there's universal design or ADA features in the home, which increases the resale of the home. So if a millennial has just bought their first home and they're going to resell in 5 years, well, now they can add these features.
Well, and I think the thing is like all of healthcare, they're seeing, we just did a panel on living in place, and the number of deaths from falls almost doubles next year. And the health insurance industry, Medicaid, all of that is seeing monetary value because they're going to spend less if we can make sure they can live safely in their homes. So for you guys, what are other ways you market yourself as someone educated in that concept? Because I all think ultimately, like being realistic, everyone wants to make money and like pay their bills, but at the same time, you can really make yourself stand out if you continue to educate yourself on this concept.
I think it's educating your client about what your certifications mean and not feeling like you're bragging when you're talking about them and presenting it in a light where you're showing the importance and why you did it and why you care. And you care because you're doing it to make their lives better.
And don't you think, like, I love me some millennials because they're a generation who they don't necessarily buy into brands just because they are supposed to. They care about the authenticity of it and the transparency.
Yeah. So I just had a client last year who found me on Houzz, and then she quickly went to work. You probably do this yourselves with people that you're hiring or dating or working with, right? She told me later, she's like, I stalked you. She found me on all my social media platform. Now, I live a very transparent life in social media. My Facebook is actually public, and I don't know if it's shouldn't be, right? But it's actually public. My Instagram is personal and business. So I lead a pretty transparent life out there, and as a Gen Xer, I kind of, I've got a foot in both worlds and the generations. I'm a texter. I'd rather you text me than call, so I'm similar to millennials in that way. But she hired me because she liked who I was. She saw that authenticity. She saw a real person. When she picked up the phone, she texted me first, and then we talked on the phone. She felt like she knew me already. She would have sent me a check before even meeting me, because she felt like she knew me.
So Alex, like technology for some people who haven't incorporated it in their business, at what point in the process should they start thinking about the technology and putting it in the design process?
Yeah, I mean, the earlier the better in terms of getting a good outcome. We very frequently find a client where they work with an architect, they work with a designer, they're ready to move in, and then they start thinking about the technology. And at this point, you're literally talking about, depending on the room and the environment, putting 80-inch or 90-inch TVs in a room that wasn't designed for it, putting speakers that weren't built for it. If you want to use voice control, the acoustics are going to matter. And you end up really hurting the design and the intent of the home. And so what we find is, when possible, getting the AV guy, the tech guy in the discussion earlier, and then really having an honest conversation with the client about what's important to them. Because if they say, I want to have music throughout the entire house, all seamless, so I can walk around and hear the same, systemized song, that needs to be factored early on, or you're going to be ripping apart walls, you're going to be retrofitting in, speakers, and it's going to get messy. So when possible, try to come in early, try to think of these guys as value add, partners, and also we find that clients often have very specific things in mind of the experience they're looking for. The experience includes the artwork and the furnishings and the technology. And when that discussion hasn't been brought up, in the beginning, we find that clients sometimes end up with a beautiful room, but it's not easy to control the technology. They feel disappointed. So to try to make sure that you have a client that feels like they've gotten a great outcome, the earlier the conversations happen, the better.
And I think if you always talk to a client about, like, what are you scared of? What do you think could go wrong? And you have those conversations before you start. If they're worried technology will change or they don't want it too complicated, and you have those conversations. So, okay, so there's a phrase called community over competition. So that's all about knowing that you don't have to be the only expert in the room. So thinking of teams that you have to bring in on a design job, for the two designers, who would be on your team? What kind of people do you have?
It's a pretty big team, even if it's just a one room. So, I mean, you have your design team, you have your plumbers, your electrician, your contractor, your painters, your AV people. If you're doing furnishings, if that's not your specialty, I pair up with someone that does furnishings because you can't know it all, So you partner with really great people and lean on them.
Mm-hmm. And with universal design living in place, of course, now we're adding a medical expert, an occupational therapist now, and an architect is part of our team too. But don't forget to ask for the medical expert or the occupational therapist.
And I think so wellness and design is the next big thing. We did a bunch of interviews. Everyone talked about wellness or they talked about technology. So if you think about it with wellness, sometimes if someone has faced trauma and for some reason they're doing a remodel, we did a veterans makeover. A lot of them have faced trauma. We'll incorporate their therapist to help guide it so things aren't overwhelming. Everyone knows Marie Kondo now and is folding their clothes. If you don't, you should, because it really does feel good. But it's about how your home feels on it. It's exciting stuff. So, but when we looked at the audience, a lot of you weren't certified, which is okay. However, it's something worth exploring because you don't have to be in that city to get certified anymore. I did mine online. Are you guys CLIP or Aging in Place?
CLIP. I had Aging in Place, but I didn't maintain it, and then NKBA partnered with CLIP, so.
And CLIP you can do online. So we'll talk CLIP for a second because CLIP basically you can do like in person, like 1 to 2 days, very intense. Oh, do you have a question from the back? Oh, thank you. No, we love questions and interrupt. Certified living in place. So the old concept was kind of where you talked about aging in place, but now it's about living because it doesn't mean only like older people care about it. How'd you get certified?
Yeah. I did a local in-person one, and I really liked that hands-on with the team, with the community, sitting in the same room and talking and sharing ideas together. But I do a fair amount of webinars and other things as well, so that's a fantastic way of getting certified.
So most things now are multi-generational. So I lived in Italy, you lived in a palazzo, and each level was a different family member, so they all embraced kind of being around family. That's a very European concept. But more and more in America, you're seeing multi-generational living and people taking people in, which is of their family, which is all the more reason why understanding universal design and living in place is important for you to implement. Any questions right now while we're going through this? You guys are all so focused. Remember to smile occasionally.
Community, interaction.
So one of the things that I love about living in place, just to talk about it, is that like I love that I can go in and start that conversation. And I ask, who comes to visit you? Who all lives in the house? Sometimes you'll say, okay, if your parents come to visit, how often do they come to visit? My husband's English. His parents came for 6 weeks at a time. My house needed to be accessible for them because 6 weeks is a long time. What are some of the other things you'll talk with your clients about with living in place and universal design?
I think really touching on how they use the space, who's using the space, like you said, who comes to visit, because universal design is for everyone. It doesn't matter your age, your ability, your size. It just needs to be easy and intuitive. So it's good to have like a laundry list of questions.
And it sounds dumb, but when you get certified, they talk about like you could be holding a kid and a grocery bag, and is your hallway wide enough to go through that hallway? Question
Right.
in the back. Okay, for Alex. I'll repeat it so everyone can hear. I'll repeat your question after you say it so everyone hears it.
So if I have allergy issues, is there things technology-wise that I can do to help the lifestyle of my home?
So if you have allergy issues, which is very prevalent in the world today, are there any technology things that could enhance how they live in their home?
Short answer is yes, but the longer answer is there are a lot of new creative ideas in the technology world that are rapidly evolving, and one of those topics and trends is just general health and wellness. There are companies that are looking at indoor air quality, how your lighting and circadian rhythms can actually impact your mood, your sleep patterns, ambient noise, all of these things that really impact your overall health and wellness. But it's such a new category that I couldn't say there's a particular brand or particular product that I would recommend that you just plug in and it's going to work. It's more thinking holistically about how is the air being filtered, how are people occupying the spaces, are there rooms that are going to get static, do you have access to natural open windows and doors and that kind of stuff. It's a really interesting trend though, because what we're finding is the AV world in general is moving away from this concept of entertainment and I want to just watch TV and listen to music. And it's moving towards a sense of your home should be comforting, it should be taking care of you, it should be evolving and adapting with you. And so everything from indoor air quality to your lighting to making sure that you just have the mood right, that's rapidly evolving and there's some really cool innovation happening.
So like sometimes I'll see businesses and I'll see how they market themselves, and sometimes you'll be like, oh, I don't do Facebook or I don't text. And I think that says a lot about you. A lot of times I'll text with my clients because I'm like, I just got it documented that you agreed to that and I have evidence now. But like, what are some of the things you guys do when you're showing off your brands about like towards different generations, or what do you do to kind of show like, I'm with it in the world, like you want to get with this?
I'll just jump in because we built a brand that is kind of exciting. We're doing some fun things. Our logo is a dog. And the idea is that a dog watches over the home. They're a watchdog, a dog, but also dogs are part of the family. There's a good sort of emotional aspect to it. And from a voice control perspective, you can give basic commands to dogs, sit, roll over, but you're not expecting them to have a conversation. So in our social media, we actually try to feature a combination of design, architecture, technology, and dogs, and it brings our brand to feel more human. It makes people feel more connected. And what's kind of fun is we actually have clients and integrator partners and designers that share their dogs. Like, it becomes part of our brand. And that's just one thing that we do, but it helps humanize what we do.
Yeah. Being the Gen X, well, one of the Gen X's up here, I have a foot in both worlds, right? And I come more from, okay, it's just 8 to 5, and you pick up the phone, and that's the way I was taught in this world, in this industry, right? With our clients and sales and customer service. So the thing that I have learned to do is to text. It's okay to text your clients, depending on who they are and
People
if they
used to think that was rude, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Now, but I have to know my client. Boomer, I'm probably not going to text with. The rest, I probably will. But it also means, and then I always had this, okay, it's 8 to 5. Well, it's not always just 8 to 5 anymore.
It's really not.
And a millennial is not going to want it just 8 to 5.
No. Yeah. And I would say transparency for me. I'm transparent with like social media. I'm transparent with my billing. I'm transparent with the like reality of some of the design things that clients would ask for. And so I have got really great feedback, from the very first time that I meet with a client. I like to talk to them on the phone, but I'm such a face-to-face person that I have to go see your house and I want to meet you and make sure that we're a good fit because your remodel or your new build that we're doing is intimate and we're going to be spending a lot of time together. So we got to love each other. But having that transparency is so important, and bringing it up in the beginning, I feel like, I don't know, everyone just gets hooked and they're like, cool, you're going to be super honest and you're going to keep everyone that's on our team honest as well, which that makes you feel comfortable. So,
yeah, and to the point earlier, people are stalking you. They're looking up your brand. They're seeing what's out there.
They know your cousin.
Yeah.
And so the more that you can systematize and put content out there, the better. The plan that we set in place for our company is every week on a Monday, we post a blog post. That blog post could be very simple. It could be, here's a cool product we saw or a cool project, or it could be something more intimate about get to know some of the team. But we do that every single Monday. That gives us content to go on Facebook and go on Twitter. It's original content that exposes who we are as a brand. But then in addition, we have a policy of about 3 or 4 Instagram posts a day. But again, those are lifestyle posts. They're dogs and architecture and inspiration, and then 2 tweets a day. And by having a process in place, it takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes a day. It's really a pretty efficient process. But if anyone looks up our brand, there's new, fresh content, and they can get to know who we are pretty quickly.
Animals and babies, always on trend. But if you think about it, some companies tie in with their national marketing companies that promote their business, but you always have to supplement with personal information. For example, I was the national spokesperson for Flooring America, and a lot of the local stores would just use the national marketing. But if they didn't supplement it with their own story, what was the point? It just looked generic. And I laugh because with millennials, I feel like some people are like, millennials, they're like, you know, weird things, zoo animals, like explain them to me. And now it just keeps getting more. But ultimately, millennials, to make you talk about them, they just care that you are a nice human and that you're good for the world.
I was going to say, we're still humans, just because we're millennials, and we're not scary.
You know what was fascinating during this whole process of kind of getting to know each other and talking about the topic and kind of, you know, we were going down the path of, well, how would you design Universal for a boomer? And how would you design, you know, Universal for different generations? And I had this list and I had this list, and we kept coming back to, there are so many more similarities than differences. There are way more similarities than differences for different reasons. Boomers and millennials are coming to the same solutions for very different reasons. Whether it's the housing, the type of house they're wanting to get or move into, whether there's kids in the house, whether they're planning on having kids or it's the grandkids. There's still kids around, right? Budgets. Both generations may be in some budgets. So there's so many more similarities than differences.
Yeah, and I'll just start really quickly. We're seeing the exact same thing where it's less about the generational divide and more to a certain extent about the difference in economic backgrounds. What we find is we focus mostly on the luxury space. Whether it's a 40-year-old or an 80-year-old, if they're a 1%er, they're going to make similar decisions. And if we have more of a mass market solution for a big high-rise, that's going to be a different set of solutions. But you're going to have a distribution of age groups in either of those different markets.
And the unknown's scary at any age. And I think with technology, the biggest fear is, if I invest in it, is it going to change? I mean, what would you say to that, Alex? Like, should they, like, if they do a connected home, should they be freaking out that it's going to be different in a year?
Certain things will change and certain things won't. At the end of the day, we like to really change the conversation away from an ROI discussion of it's going to cost this much money and this is sort of what the possible investment's going to recoup, and more about what do you want your experience to be. So for example, a lot of our clients have second or third homes. If you have a winter home, the experience of having beautiful design, beautiful artwork, but no technology means you're showing up possibly to a freezing cold room, freezing cold home. The snow melt hasn't taken care of the driveway. You know, the lights aren't on, there's no music. But with technology, you show up and the house is at a cool 70 degrees. The driveways, you know, all use ice melt, it's great. music is on the second you open the door, your experience, your happiness, that vacation is all of a sudden a much more delightful experience.
And even poor people like that experience, I find out. My clients are, not to give you grief, but I'll do multi-million, but I'll still take on the client who can only afford 1 hour because I'm like, you deserve great design too. So like, it really is about how you enjoy life.
Yeah. And really, it's the same answer with technology of what if it changes in 5 years? It's the same question we've been asking for years. What if the tile is trendy and now turquoise isn't, or purple? This year it's all about purple and eggplant. What if that's not in 5 years? What if that countertop is going to be out of style? Well, we go back to timeless. Make it, make the right choices. And with technology, it's just making the right choice.
And Suzanne, don't you think it's like, I tell my clients, I'm like, you're not going to like anything in 10 years. Like, let's be realistic. You'll be sick of it.
Exactly. Yes. I think that's probably one of the first questions that we get when we're at the material stage, pulling all of the materials together. And when we're looking at something that is a little bit more trendy or isn't a neutral, because people are getting tired of neutral, which is great, because so are we. So when you're specifying like a green mosaic that the client loves, but they're scared, you have multiple options. One, use it in a smaller amount, put it somewhere that you could take it out and put something else back in. Or embrace it and freaking love your green tile. And at some point later down the road, replace it or own it. In 10 years, if someone thinks it's dated, cool, love your opinion. I love it. It's green and it's my favorite.
I always think too much neutrals like the Xanax of design because your house is so calm that you're like, oh my gosh, it's so gray and white. And like you'll learn, because that's why color's coming back, is because it reminds you you're alive, you're not dead yet. And if you're thinking about generations and you're marketing your company, right? I'm so not appropriate. Next year they'll be like, don't let Jen host a panel. But like, if you think about it, know your market. Who are you marketing to and around? You don't have to pretend you're an expert at everything, but like if you live in an area where there are a lot of boomers, then start talking to them on social media and tell their story.
Now, if you're talking about color and universal design or aging in place, our eyes change as we get older, right? My grandmother, when she remodeled her home late in life, had this orange-red, just god-awful carpet. And she was wearing all these bright, vivid, bold colors. And later, it was because we understood that the lens of her eye was yellowing, and she saw color differently than we do. So
it can make food look wilted and rotten, right, when your eyes are...
Purple to one client may be something totally different, maybe mud to a different client, right? So you need to...
We're going to take questions, but when you do get certified in living in place, there's one thing they do where they make you put on all these glasses with spots, and you start to experience 5 minutes of what it's like to have glaucoma. And I don't know how people do it. And you realize how important it is to understand how the home should be designed to enhance it. Now let's take a couple questions. You've got amazing experts up here. Pick their brains. Right? It always takes, good, thank you for being the one. It takes one and then everyone warms up. Okay, she's coming at you with like a Phil Donahue mic, which shows that I'm a Gen X, because millennials are like, who's Phil Donahue?
Hi, I'm Mary from San Diego. And I love the living in place concept, and I design a lot of bathrooms. Some of the products that I love are for kids' bathrooms. You know how you walk in the bathroom and the old porcelain soap dish has fallen off the wall. Well, Moen makes a grab bar shelf, which I always use in kids' bathrooms. It holds the toys, it holds the shampoo. The kids will grab it, and they will be safe. I also do, the grab bars are now looking more like towel bars. If I do one horizontally at the end of the tub, you can use it for the bath mat to dry, and then you use it safely getting in and out. And then Moen also makes a hand shower on the bar. You can block in the bar, the sliding bar, so if someone accidentally grabs that bar, they're safe also. But I use them, in all my proposals, I'll put in reinforced grab bar and the grab bar itself, whether it's a shelf or a grab bar, or I also use the toilet paper grab bars.
See, those are great products. So like
Great
even
products.
just listening, one moment you go, oh my gosh, I have a client who needs it, and they don't have to be older, a Moen shelf grab bar.
Yeah.
But if you guys, like as you do this, even if you're not getting certified right now on social media, tag that you watched this panel. Show that you're caring enough to understand living in place and universal design, and people in your social media worlds will start to pay attention. Did you have a question at the end, or were you just sharing brilliant knowledge?
I was sharing.
We love it. No, that's the thing. We're not the only experts in the world. We understand you're experts as well, and we love it because that is why community is big, because it's no longer talking at people, it's having conversations.
Thank you.
Oh, see, they didn't want to turn yours back on.
They didn't want me talking anymore. They're like, Suzy, you're done. We're giving you the mic that's off. And isn't it nice that the grab bars and things are beautiful now, and they can match your whole suite of plumbing? Oh, yeah.
I was going to put it on the slide. Yes, next question. Microphone's coming to you, sister. I'm going to get the slide that has our social media on it soon. Someone's going to put that one on.
Hi, guys. I'm Allison from Seattle.
Hi, Allison.
Hi, Suzy. And I was just curious, so I'm not familiar with the CLIP program other than the name. Are there more than just designers, and are there vendors and resource lists of people that are, either are certified, or I think of vendors and going in to talk with?
So with the Living in Place Institute, there are resources, whether it's occupational therapists or other vendors and people that understand it as well, and find certified living in place professionals, and also find out how to register to take the class. It's Living in Place Professional, or Living in Place Institute. And NKBA has partnered with the CLIP certification. Now, NKBA also just launched their badge program, and we have a Living in Place badge as well, which is a great stepping stone for anyone, not just designers. So we can get our manufacturers and our sales reps and our plumbing specifiers and all these, anybody else interested in the living in place and wanting to say, hey, I can help you as a designer, I understand what you're doing, and they can take the NKBA Living in Place badge and be part of your team.
And CLIP is CLI, 2 Ps. So even if you don't want to get certified, just start following it. Start paying attention. For me, I'm certified, but I know I am the creative person who will not remember everything, but I know that I have them as a resource for when I need them. So we just did a panel on that. Look, I set my alarm so we would do questions. Snooze. But ultimately, like when you get certified, you know you have that as your fingertip, but they have home inspectors, they have financial advisors do it, they have builders, contractors. There's like anyone who cares about how you live your life ultimately would get certified. They also have an app, so when you go to a home and it basically, you can go through a question that it basically has that conversation. So you don't even have to remember it all, and it saves that information, and it makes you look like you have your act together, which matters. Good question from Seattle. Next question. And I just want you to know, my millennial changed she was my assistant. I'm Jennifer Bertrand Design now on Instagram. I don't know if it still comes up with that, but a millennial advised me to change it.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I was wondering, as technology is integrated into more and more things, what do we need to know, and how do we educate our clients about security, personal security, and stuff like that?
Yeah, because that's a creepy, like they're like, are my cameras going to watch me? Tell them, Alex.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. This is on, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. It's a great question, and honestly, I've lived my entire life in the technology world, and there are so many things I don't know where I have to seek out experts. Within the umbrella of smart home technology, you've got all the issues around networking and security. You've got lighting, which is a very amazing but complicated space. Audio, I still don't fully understand all of the different aspects of how speakers go from $200 to $200,000. It's pretty crazy. And the point of all that is to say you need to try to find experts that you trust, that you can collaborate with. The nice thing is you'll bring projects to each other, but if if you try to take on all of the knowledge, it would be like me trying to take on all of your knowledge. I want to get familiar. I want to know, the basic trends, but it's just a very involved, very elaborate space. And so don't try to take all of it on yourself. That being said, some general rule of thumb kind of ideas to understand. Everything in the home today, and sort of over the next 5 to 10 years, as far as we can tell, is being connected through the network. And so if you don't have good Wi-Fi, you're not going to have a connected home that's working well. A good sort of Wi-Fi network can certainly be costly in a big project, but that's always the very first piece. If that piece isn't well figured out, everything else is basically just going to be a headache. Once the network piece has been figured out, the assumption now is everything is going to go through that. Think of the connected home like a central brain that's got all these tentacles. So the brain is your processor, and it's going to talk to your lights, talk to your thermostat, talk to your garage door. You can add and remove different endpoints if you have a good brain, but without that brain, things don't really communicate well. That brain is often called the control system. There are a variety of options there. And again, finding a local AV person that can kind of help show you this and walk you through it, I think is important.
And you can hire an integrator, is what they're called, to where they can come give advice on your design. But don't you think, Alex, like people should not be scared of like everyone's like, I'm not gonna get cameras in my house. Someone's gonna want to watch me. And my husband always goes, he's from London, he's like, you're not that interesting. But if you think about it, like, you don't, like, your credit card could get hacked. There's so many things now where you can get hacked, but the benefits of having certain systems far outweigh the fears that could be.
I mean, that's true to a certain extent, but there's also the reality that while this might not always be true, to a certain extent, you get what you pay for. And what I mean by that is the big tech companies are often subsidizing hardware, driving the cost down because they want your data, they want your client's data. And that's, in my opinion, a scary proposition. And again, we live in the luxury space, so we have a different set of decisions that get made. But our clients often say, I don't want an Amazon or a Google listening in on every conversation, having access to all my data. The reality is you have options. There are products that are very secure, very locked down, keep everything remote. We're one of them, right?
How do they find them? Find you? Is that what they need?
Yeah, and when you're dealing with an integrator, those guys, similar to what you guys do on the design side, they go through intense certification. No one can sell our product if they're not certified, and part of getting certified is going through all the privacy.
What are some of the seals or certifications that we should be looking for when we're trying to find a reputable integrator? Is that what it is? Okay.
So there are two main ones. There's an organization called CEDIA, CEDIA. CEDIA and this trade show are actually starting to collaborate quite a bit, and CEDIA's upstairs here in the South Hall. Great organization. On the website, you can find local integrators in pretty much every city around the US. Great resources. I'm on our technology council for CEDIA. We put out webinars and podcasts, and it's really geared towards the general public, not just AV integrators. So CEDIA is one thing to look for. The next is a relatively new organization called HTA, the Home Technology Association. To get HTA certified as an integrator, there's a very intense interview process to make sure that you follow all the best practices, you install the right products, you have good customer relationships. We're seeing that a good majority of the legitimate integrators are getting HTA certified. And then the last piece is an integrator is not able to sell really any of these professional products if they're not certified. So if they're installing Lutron, if they're installing Crestron, if they're installing Control 4, make sure that they're showing that they have a certified badge for that product, because they can sometimes buy these products off eBay, not be certified, and they're going to do a bad job. So really just make sure they're certified with the products they're installing.
And then if you heard all those names and you're like, what are they? Then it went over your head. Then you take the time to educate yourself what they are, find the CEDIA booth, and they do a big expo as well. And it's amazing. It used to be just geared towards tech, but now we're taking over that as well. Okay, so we have time for one more question, and you guys have all been amazing. Who's going to bring it? Last amazing question. No pressure.
Hi, Sanjeev from Samsung in Korea. I'm part of the Smart Things platform, as many of the topics you explained are very relevant to me. I have a question. It relates to what does device manufacturer has to do to be part of this conversation?
So the first thing a device manufacturer has to do is just build a product that a consumer wants. It's really hard to push products to consumers that they don't seem to have an interest in. That being said, you're probably already getting customers that are saying they want smart TV, smart lighting, smart speakers, video doorbells. Once you've built a product that the customer wants, in my opinion as a manufacturer, be as open as possible. So traditionally, Apple's done the opposite. Closed products, closed ecosystem, hard to work with others. But Samsung, I believe, has a more open philosophy. And when I say open, what I mean is, if you think about technology similar to the furniture and the products in the home, it's a different manufacturer making the TV and the speaker and the lights. If you build open ecosystems with APIs that work with all these other products, then it's much easier to spec into a home.
That's a great last question, and that is a great way to end it, because you need to be a business that people want to connect with. So if you think about it, just as much as you can, share on social media moments you've learned from here. It's going to make people want to learn what you have to offer. So thank you to our amazing panel. Round of applause. Feel free to come find them afterwards to talk to them. Follow them on social media, and big hugs to all of you.